last chance for the home team. James with the header into the arms of Milos Kosic, and that should just about be it. Just a few seconds remaining, and the year Toronto FC will be happy to forget.
A last gasp equalizer to Dallas.
Toronto FC is under the
Complete in stoppage time.
with another loss.
And there it is, right? Nelson's going to take
Foul.
this one.
Walters penalty.
The dismal season comes to a close for
Miserable
Toronto
night
FC.
for Toronto FC.
Very disappointing season for Toronto FC fans.
And that will just about be the last action of this game here at BMO Field. And it is indeed the end of the season, one which saw Toronto FC miss the playoffs.
Giovinco. Still Giovinco. Oh, Giovinco. Oh, my word. That is absolutely exceptional. What can you say about Sebastian Giovinco? He's probably scored the goal. It takes Toronto FC to the promised land of the playoffs. It's 2-0. It's Giovinco again.
Playoffs is the word that's on everyone's mouth in Toronto right now for a couple reasons. The Red Bulls are in first, DC is sliding. Personally, I think Montreal might be the second or third most dangerous team in this conference right now. The ball, everything is in TFC's hands, which you couldn't really say in the past, if you know what I mean. And
Control their own destiny.
if you can beat Columbus and New York, the narrative changes completely. Because now we're talking about a team that's in control of their own destiny heading into that game against Montreal to end the season where they can possibly clinch a home playoff berth.
I like the Revolution. I like the Red Bulls. But this TFC team can climb in the standings, and I want to see how high they can get. To me, it's not just about qualifying for the playoffs. It's about positioning yourself appropriately. I think Toronto FC, over the course of this next little run, they can go on a streak here where they can be in the top three. I've said this all along. I like New England the most. I like New York Red Bulls second. Then Toronto FC is equal or better than any other team in the conference.
The soccer culture in this town is huge, but again, like we've said all year, they want to believe, but the scars are there.
I remember being at Giants Stadium in 2009 when Toronto FC needed just a point to get in the playoffs for the first time. And with the rain lashing down and a game that got delayed because of a thunderstorm, they ended up losing 5-0 on that night.
I remember the night before we had a team dinner, and the mood was light. You know, there was a lot of experienced guys on the team that knew what was in store for us and the pressure in front of us. But it seemed like we've been through quite a lot in our professional career that we were well prepared for it.
Toronto FC with 39 points from 29 games. Locked in a four-way battle on 39 points for one of two playoff spots still up for grabs.
The playoffs had been within touching distance. It was so close.
We were a matter of, a fingernail away.
There is the third for New York Red Bulls. And does he bury Toronto FC's playoff hopes with it? His second of the night.
It was actually one of probably the most memorable and embarrassing moments of my professional career.
And then since then, it hasn't really ever been realistic in terms of getting to that final hurdle and being able to jump it and get into the postseason.
History waits to be written tonight in Toronto. TFC can book a berth in the MLS playoffs for the first time ever. Red Bulls unbeaten in the last three meetings between these two teams. Justin Morgan ahead of him. Morrow. Push from Veron. Free kick against the Argentine. It's Gomez. Floats it. Dangerous. Oh, just wide. Giovinco and Altidore are both on the bench, despite playing international soccer last night. Inside the area again. Now, is there a push there? Referee had a look. Decided there was nothing going. On we play. No score on a night when there is tangible reward for both teams. Referee's attention is being drawn by his assistant way to the right-hand side. Something happened on the bench. It's a red card for one of the players, I believe. We can't see at this stage. The referee has sent off one of the Toronto FC players, I believe.
We'll see if we can find an explanation.
It might be Josie Altidore. It is Altidore who is being thrown out of the game from the bench. He has got a straight red card from the referee. Two teams locked together. It could be an historic night. If Toronto FC avoids defeat, it is into the playoffs for the first time. Who's gone down and is slow to rise. He thought about getting up, but he stayed down. And the case's night is over. His replacement will be Cantari. Decent ball, Robles comes, gets there just a fraction ahead of Delgado, then loses it. It's going to go out of play. At the other end, Grella. Jackson in to deny it. 6 minutes into the second half. Jackson, Kieran, on to goal. It's Hercules Gomez. New York made a mess of it. And Toronto FC could be on course for the playoffs tonight. Gomez has scored it, and the Reds lead New York by a goal to nil. The deadlock is finally broken. It's his first goal in Major League Soccer since 2008. It's been 7 years in the making. The faithful are here in decent numbers. They smell blood here. They've got the opening goal. If they could get a second, it might be too much of a hill to climb for the Red Bulls. We are hearing there is definitive movement on the Toronto FC bench, and that sooner rather than later we're going to see the arrival of Sebastian Giovinco. Listen to the ovation.
My first memory of Toronto FC always goes back to that home opener at BMO Field. It was just a few months after I'd moved over to Canada from England, and I wasn't really sure what to expect, if it would be an authentic soccer atmosphere.
The grand opening of BMO Field in Toronto, Ontario, as Toronto FC is home to the Kansas City Wizards, the first ever Major League Soccer match played in Canada.
And I'll never forget this day, the first home game at BMO Field. I mean, I was a guy that grew up playing in this area, dreaming of a professional team like this.
When the national anthem was played and everybody stood up with their scarves above their head, it was just, you could tell that it was going to be a real soccer place.
It was a dark spring Saturday afternoon at BMO Field. They lost to the Kansas City Wizards 1-0, but in the back of my head, I knew that 2 days later, that Monday morning, I was starting chemotherapy at Princess Margaret Hospital.
The Canadian referee blows his whistle and we are underway. Glad you're with us.
It was a weird day. It was an emotional day where there was a whole lot of good, but in the back of my head, I knew that a whole lot of bad was coming. And that was the birth of the franchise.
Still in search of their first ever point, first ever goal, indeed first ever victory, which is the ultimate goal for them here.
I stayed on the chemo for 9.5 months. I had to take months off of work. And it was a difficult time, and it kind of reflected the difficult time that the soccer club was going through.
Eddie Johnson, will he shoot? Takes his time, gone for the near post, and he scored. And that is the opening goal. He scored against them on Wednesday night, and Eddie Johnson has done it again.
With great change, a revolving door of players, lacking an identity, lacking direction, changing head coaches. It was a tumultuous time just covering the club, because it's not because people didn't care, because a whole lot of people cared. They just didn't know which direction to take it. So there was parallels there to my own cancer battle or journey, going all over the place, the highs and lows in between. That's exactly what various supporters were experiencing following this club.
We're going to see the arrival of Sebastian Giovinco. Listen to the ovation.
He hasn't touched the ball yet, but he's already getting a standing ovation. Listen to the fans roar for Giovinco.
And I think that a lot of people have experienced stories just like mine. It's been a very personal experience shared with others. I look at my own future being bright, but I look at the future being bright for this club as well. So there are these crazy parallels that you can kind of draw from your own life, and you see it playing out before us on the field. That's what makes our own personal experiences that much more sweet.
Sorio, Giovinco inevitably ahead of him, trying to push Toronto's FC over the playoff line for the first time in franchise history. An air of expectation. Giovinco. Still Giovinco. Oh, Giovinco. Oh my word. That is absolutely exceptional. What can you say about Sebastian Giovinco? He's probably scored the goal that takes Toronto FC to the promised land of the playoffs. It's 2-0. It's Giovinco again.
MLS goal of the year. Calling it right now. Unbelievable. What a finish from Sebastian Giovinco. What a player.
They're ready to start the party in Toronto. And that is a goal worth waiting many, many seasons to see. It's over now. Toronto FC are outsiders no more. It's taken 9 coaches, nearly 9 seasons, and 288 regular season games. But finally, the Reds are a playoff team in 2015.
Yeah, you just tell they were just that the whole build-up, that all that energy was over all the years past, and it was great for them to be able to rush on the field and celebrate with us, and for us to celebrate with them, it's appreciation, and I appreciate them, they appreciate us, and it's a great feeling.
It's like, I guess it hasn't really sunk in totally yet, but yeah, thinking about it right now, it's like making me smile, and like, it's amazing.
I was told to come in, so. Playoffs!
For me, it's a great feeling. I couldn't believe it after the game. As soon as the whistle was blown, it's like, we did it. We did it, finally. It's surreal.
There have been so many times down the years when people could have turned their back. People could have decided to go somewhere else, but fans have stuck by this team, and the fact that they've finally made the playoffs is reward for so many people who for so long have been turning up on windy, cold, wet days down by the shores of Lake Ontario to support this team, and it's an incredible moment for those people.
We made the playoffs.
You feeling good today?
I'm feeling great.
Toronto FC playoff bound. Has it sunk in yet?
It kind of sunk in those final moments, and it's not the end, it's just the beginning. What a way to do it in under adversity, without three DPs not in the starting lineup, and just to do it against also arguably the best team in the league at the moment.
Last year, I set a goal for myself. I was kind of working with TFC, but not in a full-time capacity. And as I grew more passionate about the club, I set my sights on the fact that if by next year I could be traveling with this team and being the reporter, knowing the ins and outs of the entire season, that was obtainable for me, and I was able to achieve it.
Toronto FC plays Montreal again for the second time in less than 5 days at Stade Saputo with everything on the line. A chance to play in the conference semifinals, a chance to host a playoff game at BMO Field for the first time. There's no hyperbole left. This is it, folks.
I think you become emotionally invested in the entire experience. You're around the team so much that you feel as much emotionally attached to the experiences as the players are. People always gravitate towards the marquee names, the 3 DPs, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, and of course Sebastian Giovinco. He has brought us so much joy this entire season. You think back to Yankee Stadium and him scoring a hat trick there and the incredible comeback that it was in that game. And then even the hat trick at home against Orlando City and him sliding across the pitch in towards the arms of the supporters. But aside from that, you think of the Canadian boy, Jonathan Osorio. He's come through the ranks of this entire academy right up to the first team, and he's the sixth god, right? I mean, he brings the true vibe of the city to this club, and it's so rare to see Canadians in Major League Soccer have success.
I think when you think about cities that don't like each other too much, especially in North America, Toronto and Montreal are probably right up there in terms of the rivalry, whatever it is, whether it's the Leafs and the Habs, the Argos, the Alouettes. These are two cities that really don't get along.
I think it's a healthy rivalry, and there's no better way for Toronto FC to introduce themselves to the MLS Cup playoffs than playing their staunchest rival.
Every sport, it's Toronto, Montreal, we're so close. And I think it's just going to be a fantastic game, hard pushing game, physical game, exhausting game, but I know we're going to do it. We're going to win it.
Facing Montreal is just going to be an epic battle between two cities that have a hatred for each other since day one.
We've always been rivals forever. Toronto hates Montreal, Montreal hates Toronto, and we're going to win for that reason.
I was there on Sunday night, and at 1-0, we're like, okay, we're coming back home, we're going to host a game, maybe get a bye, and then we have a 15-minute spell in the second half where the Reds just kind of drop off, and full credit to Montreal, they took advantage of it. Didier Drogba scores 2 goals in 2 minutes, and now we're going back to Montreal.
I think for so long in Major League Soccer, it's been a case of all the stars being elsewhere. And now, probably two of the best players in the league, if not the best 2 players in the league, are right here in Canada with Sebastian Giovinco. You know, what he's done this season has been incredible in terms of the stats and the history. And you look at Didier Drogba, who only arrived in August and has scored 11 goals in 11 games, and maybe if he'd been here 2 or 3 months earlier, it would have been a bit more of a closer race between him and Sebastian Giovinco for the MVP award. And really, when it comes to a night like this, when it comes to a playoff game, that's what you have your big-time players for. It's about, obviously, more than just those star players. But that's what they're here for. That's why they get paid the money, to turn up, to win games, and there isn't a bigger game to win than this one.
Welcome to a little piece of Canadian soccer history. The first time Canada has hosted a Major League Soccer playoff game. The first time 2 Canadian teams have played each other in Major League Soccer's playoffs. And of course, Toronto FC's playoff debut. Montreal were in the postseason in 2013.
There's no doubt these 2 teams know each other very well. 6th meeting of the season in all competitions, championships, Champions League, of course, and MLS. No longer the X's and O's for these 2 coaches. Now it's about what the players can control.
In any league, there's always 2 teams that have that rivalry. And you look at West Coast in MLS, and then you look at East Coast and in Canada in general. This is it, Montreal against Toronto. And that's huge, even from my playing days. And it's one that's not going to go lightly. You know, there's going to be some hard-nosed tackles, but this is a game that's going to go down in history.
I think Montreal and Toronto is one of the greatest rivalries in any sport, but in soccer in particular. I mean, this is the first time that Canadian clubs have gone head-to-head in Major League Soccer in the postseason.
It is the 401 Derby playoff edition. Just looking out in this crowd tonight and seeing how passionate it's going to be, it's going to send chills down the spine. Again, this is what we wanted from Canadian club teams. This is what we wanted Canadian soccer to become. And it means a lot for the Impact as well. This can be their first ever MLS Cup playoff victory as well. So a lot on the line. No better opponent to play than your biggest rival. Let's see what happens tonight.
Toronto FC in the red, Montreal Impact in the blue. From Stade Saputo in Montreal, the first all-Canadian Major League Soccer playoff matchup is underway. Toronto FC's first postseason appearance. Montreal making their second playoff appearance since joining Major League Soccer. And here's Piatti. He has Drogba wide right, he has Bernier in the middle, and it's played through to Patrice Bernier. Bernier! It's the Canadian who gets the first goal for Montreal. Ignacio Piatti! He gets the goal his performance has deserved. A magnificent first 33 minutes from Piatti. All the way to Drogba. It's 3 for Montreal Impact. Didier Drogba buries it, and maybe buries Toronto FC even before half-time. What a night for Montreal. This time Giovinco over the wall. Really good save from Bush. Sheru back across the 6-yard box, headed away. Osorio, lovely back heel from Osorio. Finley is there, and Bush got a hand to him. It's out for a corner. There are the TFC fans. Having waited so long to see a playoff game.
You have to tip your cap to these people. TFC supporters have been long suffering. That face just about sums it up.
It is a night that will live long in the memory for Montreal Impact. But having waited 9 years for a playoff appearance, it is a night Toronto FC will just want to forget. It finishes 3-0 for Montreal. Toronto FC soundly beaten.
Like this, it's not easy to find answers. Talking doesn't do a whole lot of good. You have to again give credit to Montreal. That they handled the game very well and learn from it. Move on.